Evan, welcome to My Therapist Said podcast. How are we feeling?
We're feeling great. Let's party.
Amazing. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
All right, everyone. We have Evan Cudworth here on the podcast. He is a world-renowned party coach, which, by the way, amazing for SEO.
It's a great marketing ploy.
It really, I looked it up and I was like, damn, he really has it locked in. First one, no issues. There's no one fighting for your SEO. Well done.
It is wild. There are definitely a lot more people doing what I do, which is use like partying, and there's a lot of like rave coaches and people that are working with people in and around festivals. I've seen a lot of them, but somehow I have been afforded the title of world's first party coach, and I'm grateful to have it.
Tell me about your world. What got you interested in this? And let's dive in.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on, Stephanie. I'm stoked to talk about this. I just want to start with my mission is to reconnect humanity. I use party culture as a means to do that. I am not the coach. The party is the coach. So whoever's listening to this right now, if you are in therapy, if you are doing personal development work and you're feeling stuck, the party is the arena in which you get to practice all of the things that you are stuck up in your head. So the party is the coach. And I just want to start with that because I'm, like everyone else, making it up as I go along.
100%.
And I have a process. I have this thing called the Party Within, which is a 7-stage method to help you rebuild your social life from the inside out. So you're less focused on what you consume and more about what you create. But the journey of how I ended up here is I love to party. I love fun. I also loved drugs and alcohol way too much. And validation and all of those things. And I've been on this 15-year journey of, I've had periods of sobriety. I've had periods of addiction. I've had periods of harm reduction. And I honestly, if I'm being honest, I've loved all of them. I've even loved being an addict. And I love that part of myself because it's part of me and it helps me help other people right now. And so when I talk about why I do this, I use partying because I feel like the industry of addiction and substances therapy could be so heavy. It could be so tough that I just love talking about partying as a means to connect.
Absolutely. I also love that you take a second to show gratitude towards that version of yourself. Like that you love yourself in all chapters. I think that's super beautiful.
Yes. And of course, I'm still working through, people that I've hurt, but mostly I hurt myself.
Yeah.
I was, just like debasing myself in certain ways, and I get to constantly be in that. But yeah, what's your relationship to partying these days?
I mean, because my relationship with my addiction is always kind of changing, similar to you, I have different chapters of different things. My partying right now is like slim to none.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know we talked about this a little bit, but let's talk about that. Like isolation versus solitude. Let's just start there. I feel like I'm definitely in this isolating moment because I'm trying to turn down the substance use, but my connections with others is so it's slim to none. And I think people struggle with that for sure. So let's speak on that a little bit. What do you think?
Let's kind of define these terms of solitude versus isolation.
Yeah.
For me, I've had so much. I'm actually leading right now a group. I'm coaching a group through something I call a wellness bender, which is a 21-day habit challenge where we practice these 7 habits. And one of the habits is to call a friend or to have a conversation with your barista every day, right? It's just to be in connection. And and then there's a journal question every day. And I'm asking them, are you an extrovert? Are you an introvert? How has that changed for you? And a lot of people are like, I feel like those terms don't really matter anymore. We've all kind of thrown that away and nobody knows what they are because we go through these periods of the world drains me, but I know I need people. And so I will define for myself, I know I'm isolating when I have things that need to be expressed and I'm afraid to express them and I can't put them out in the world. And I feel like I'm a burden to people, or it's a lot of that. I feel like I'm a burden when I isolate. And solitude feels like I can't wait to go read and process and write. And if I got to share what I'm doing right now, I would feel no burden to share that. So I don't know. Do you have definitions of those terms? What do they mean to you?
No, I feel like that's pretty accurate, honestly. I'm wondering, like, when you talk to people about when they are in these periods of isolation, how do you support them in getting back into the world again?
So one of the things that we work on in this wellness bender is this concept of this party within, and that it can be built from the ground up, and that starting doing uncomfortable things by yourself will make doing things with other people easier. So one of the things I ask them to do is, can you start your day with a cold shower, the first thing you do, even if it's 15 seconds, but either you choose your discomfort or your discomfort chooses you. And when people are in isolation, doing hard things is, in my experience, the only way that I've ever got myself out of depression and isolation. No amount of self-care has ever pulled me out of anything. And other people might push back and say different things, but sometimes for me, the self-care is meditation, right? And it's hard for me to do the meditation. It's really difficult. But doing the difficult thing allows me to build energy. So when I ask people, to get out of this isolation, I was like, we don't have to go to a party this weekend, but next weekend you're going to go by yourself to a party, and up until then you're going to take cold showers, you're going to start calling your friends, you're going to do all these small little things that are proving to your body and your mind that actually connection is like the most human thing in the world, and everyone's messy, and we can all do these things.
Yeah, and after a cold shower, like, I feel like socializing sounds easy.
Right? Yes, right?
I would have never thought to think about it like that. Like, to meet isolation with doing hard things, not to meet isolation with get at yourself, go out there and do something. Because I do think people get into these feelings of isolation, myself included, where I'm like, the thought of socializing sounds terrifying, but I could take a cold shower, and that kind of gets you up and going and being like, okay, I can do hard things. And then this social thing, I mean, technically it's just another hard thing.
Yes. And there's lots of, whether you're approaching this from a like chemistry proponent, so we can talk about dopamine, we can talk about a psychological element, we can talk about the spiritual element of it. And all three of those categories are all supported this idea of, when we do these habits, when we build the momentum in whether it's dopamine release, whether it's in the connection we're literally building in our minds around other people, growth mindset, or spiritually, when we start to take responsibility for how we exist in the world, that energy flows through us, and it's much easier to go out into the world when we care for ourselves first.
That's a really totally a different way to think about it. I go to yoga every single morning at 5:30, and I always say I like to start my day with doing a hard thing, because then everything else is easy.
Yes.
Like, I already did the worst part of it. So yeah. Okay, I would like to talk a little bit around your relationship with substances.
Yeah.
You walk me through whatever you're comfortable with. Walk me through your journey.
Yeah. And let's maybe back up briefly and just talk generally. I'm someone who I do see a lot of like benefits in my life from being able to drink with my friends, to go out. I was in a fraternity, I worked in sales. Like, there was a lot of really good, beautiful times. I was not somebody who was like constantly in chaos.
Yeah.
But the chaos did come. And I have high standards for myself and the way that I show up for my friends and my family. And it got to the place where I was no longer showing up for the world in a way that was acceptable to myself or anyone else. And I had to seek help for that. And I'm really grateful that I did. And I learned so much during those years. And I had a year previously of sobriety. I got to go to Burning Man twice, actually, completely sober. I've loved every single one of the experiences. They've all made me who I am. But I have this like curiosity and interest in the world that I think like a lot of addicts would self-identify as like our addiction. I'll speak for myself. Like my addiction moves around and it can move from people to substances to validation to the work that I'm doing right now. Right. I literally had to create an identity as a party coach and put TikToks out in the world to talk about partying so that I could help other people, so that enough things flowed through me. So I was helping enough people so that I wasn't stuck in my own head about things that I was using. Right.
Yeah.
And what a gift. Like that's awesome. I think it's really cool. And so I call it, when I stepped out of sobriety, I was still curious about things and how I could exist in the world in different ways. And I don't want to talk too much about like timelines and things over there, other than I've already like continued to identify as an addict, always be in recovery. But I'm someone who, I can be in a room, a party or things like that, and I have no desire to use it all, and I will have so much fun. I usually bring like a bottle of sriracha, and I'll do like sriracha shots with people.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, if sriracha is your thing, you can bring ginger shots or honey, but people want to connect with you.
Yeah.
Like they just want to connect, and the substance is immaterial to that connection. And that's what I learned during those 2 years is I could be in any room. I was not afraid to be in any room. I worked in music. I was in the green room, cocaine flying everywhere. And I had no desire to use that thing because I was equipped with this party within me and have that thing. Now, I don't know if that will work for everyone. I've seen it work for a lot of people and build to that level. You don't have to do that. I'm not saying my way is the right way. And also, I was just curious about other things that are in the world, but I am grateful for all of my experiences, and I constantly need to be humbled and just brought back to, why am I doing this? Am I doing it for my ego? Am I doing it for and I will say, like, the ego slips back in a lot. And I'm constantly able to come back to, I want to be human with other humans. And that's why I'm here.
What do you feel like in those 2 years of when you weren't using any substances, what did that do to your connectiveness to others? Did you ever feel like you struggled to connect?
Of course. Of course there's things that I missed. Anyone who's been through this, like, sleep just becomes so important, right? And if I'm not well rested, I have to be really careful. And so, yeah, just the way that I would sometimes miss out on certain shows I would want to do and make decisions about that, like, that kind of sucked. But then I learned that there was all these other day parties and things that if I was just a little more curious, there was still so much in the world that I wasn't looking for because I was so focused on this one way of being.
Yeah.
So I missed a little bit of that. Sometimes I will say what I'm also grateful to, and this is just my experience, but I never, even in my, I advocate for sobriety and for going to parties and raves and not needing substances. I don't call it poison. I don't call these things toxic because, at least for me, it created like an identity and a barrier that I know a bunch of people that healthfully do these things and live awesome lives. And a lot of my favorite artists and musicians and people are doing this and living fun lives. And I don't need to make them evil for me because I have to deal with my own shit. And so I feel like because of that, I was able to maintain a lot of friendships that really have been valuable to me. And I had people telling me to cut these people off or to not talk to them or to do that part of the, and I'm just, at least right now, I'm through everything. I'm really grateful that I didn't. It might have been even a little harder, but I'm grateful for that, because for me, the opposite of addiction is connection.
Totally.
And so I'm trying to maintain those connections.
You have a really solid acceptance view on just your life. like you like I said at the beginning, but like how you look at your life in like chapters. But same thing when you talk about like not wanting to judge the people who still use, or like even not even wanting to carry those labels, which I'm a big advocate for as well. I even talk about this professionally, where I feel like relapse is like one of those words that carries so much shame, and I really try to like help people, you know, remove the label hurts in itself. You know, the behavior is a behavior and it's a human behavior. And I do think that I've seen it hurt more than I've seen it help. So I just want to say, like, your ability to kind of see that as well with your own life, and like not labeling substances as toxic, because that technically it's an individualist experience, you know, to use substances. We all use for different reasons and to different capacities. We can't just judge it all. Like you said, not everyone's evil. And I think that probably did help you stay so much more connected with others. Because if we label people, that's if you're in total abstinence sobriety, you label everyone who still uses as like the using people or the using friends using toxic substances. That is so isolating in itself. And then there's this level, I think, of shame too that comes up through that, around just like, if you do choose to reconnect or still hang out with those people, should you feel bad about it? You know, and like, it's a slippery slope for some people, but not for everybody. And I think the labels are so blanket that I do see it like it isolates people so much. I don't know. It can be just everyone carries the labels for different reasons, but I think your acceptance view on the whole thing is just really, it's cool. And I haven't actually heard a lot of people talk about it in the way you talk about it. So I can just tell that you really understand it for yourself.
Yeah, I do, and I want to take responsibility for my patterns of denial that also run in that too, right? And I've gotten myself into trouble because I can, isolate or compartmentalize things, right? But I today take radical responsibility for those patterns that I get myself into, and I want to speak something to just the importance of anyone that might is probably listening to this, the importance of some sort of longer term full sobriety, the ability to, I've been through birthdays, weddings, Christmases, all to go through multiple years of your life without the buffering of chemicals. I do feel like I'm not a different person. I feel more of myself because I got to walk through those things with that clarity, with that raw dog of life. And I'm really glad that I got to experience that. It was hard for me to get to that point of wanting to do it. And I really did. I wanted to do it. But if anyone's listening to here and you're doubting whether you want to do it, this is your party coach offering you the possibility that if you want it, you can have it. And it's so beautiful.
Totally. So it sounds like, yeah, it sounds like because you've been through so many different chapters and with your relationship with substances, that's taught you, it sounds like it taught you more about yourself.
Yeah. And more about other people too.
Yeah. Like you can do things different. You don't have to just do things the same all the time, which I think is, I mean, addiction is super pattern based. So I think that's, you broke a pattern. You showed yourself, I can do this a different way. And
Yeah.
you know, the future holds what the future holds. But I think that's really cool.
What's your relationship to nostalgia? Because I've been peppering TikTok with I think the most abused drug these days is nostalgia.
Say more.
I think so many people are caught in these. It's how it permeates culture, right? Everything is a reboot. Everything is a TV show. These things, everyone, like all these TikTok accounts and Instagram accounts, these slop accounts about 2016 or 2006, and everyone's watching high school, and it was better before phones. And there's like this addiction to the past, and it shows up oftentimes. Our use is, the first 5 times I used, were great. And it's like we're always trying to chase back that moment. It's maybe not even the substance itself, but we're chasing that feeling of once upon a time, this was great. And so it's, again, like party coach, is a little bit of a needle into people. But yeah, I'm curious, do you find yourself in nostalgia? How does that operate for you?
I mean, yeah, I definitely do. I also think just when it comes to my own partying, I know that that's a piece of it. Like I definitely like miss college, you know, and I definitely miss like when things were easier or whatever. And I kind of look for it in terms of like wanting it to be as fun as it once was. But to be honest, in the reality, it's really not. And then I'm hit with my own like my own check on like my expectations of like, Stephanie, you're 34, you know, you're not 22 anymore. And like, even if you go to the same places and hang with the same people, it's not going to be the same. So then I'm like also disappointed. So I do feel like nostalgia for me, yes, it plays a role in like what I choose to do. And it hurts sometimes because I'm realizing that the expectations are unfair.
Yeah. Expectations are premeditated resentments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I have that a lot too. I was just back on my college campus for a reunion, and I had a decent time, but I did find myself, I'm a trustee for my fraternity. And I found myself like sitting in like the chair of like my fraternity that I'd been in 20 years ago. And you know, these, you know, kids around me, and I'm like, we need to get out of here. But it was, you know, there's still part of me that it's like, oh, like I'm cool, right? Look at me,
Yeah.
I'm still cool. I'm a party coach. It's like I don't need to be here.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think we find so much comfort in living in the past a little bit?
The word potential is coming in for me.
Mhm.
I think there's a, you know, maybe a, a, a fear or a belief that it was like that was when our potential was fulfilled, right? And everything has been downhill. I will say that is not my experience. I have many eras. Taylor Swift, watch out, because I've got 20 of them. But I've loved all of my eras, and I feel like it's getting better. And every year I've tech. This last year was a little rough for a couple reasons. I just I lost my dog and my grandma, and there was this big, like a lot of loss came into my life again last year. But amidst that, I had the most spiritual year of my life. I got to just meet things with a different vibration of love for them, where in the past I had a lot of resentment or pushing away. And so yeah, I love all my eras, and I'm stoked. I'm very excited every day that I wake up.
How do you, as a coach, how do you help people who maybe do get stuck in this like nostalgic space? Like, how do you help them look towards the future like you're able to do?
Yeah. So stage 2 of this party within process that I have is called um, make peace with ghosts. And we do a series of rituals where you kind of write down, or it depends on the person how into this they are, but we find some example of like, you know, I was the, you know, dance on the tables party person, right? You write that down, you write a whole love letter to that person, be like, you get all these things that person gave me, right? And then we either burn it, we, you know, like let it go, knowing that it still exists, right? It's a ghost, you know, and we can go talk to that ghost, we can be grateful for it, but it's no longer part of our skin and our body and our present self, right? So we can make peace with that version of ourselves, we thank it for what it gave us, and then we can move on to build some new things. And the later stages of party within are very much about creating rituals and traditions and like looking into the present and the future, so that we're not having to go dip back into that well of where those ghosts are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, there's in addiction, we do this like write a letter to your inner addict, where you're like essentially saying goodbye to like that version of you. And I do think it's so healthy, because I do think a lot of people looking into the past or wanting experiences to be what they were back then, isn't looking for like a level of comfort because it's familiar.
Yeah.
But then there's this other piece of like, we have to let go of the familiar. To your earlier point around doing hard things, I think, you know, we have to let go of the familiar, the comfortable memories that we had or identities that we had, to be able to make room and make space for what the future does hold. But I do think, I mean, even as a therapist too, it is hard at times for me to like help encourage people to stay excited.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, how tough are you with I know it's different between therapy and coaching. I've actually I motivate. I consider myself more a cheerleader. But what I've been doing this for about 5 years. You know, you just realize most people don't want to grow. They're not ready for it. And they found me at a period where a lot of them now, my clients that I had like 4 years ago are coming to me now. They're like, oh, all the shit you told me then. It's like, it's now it's finally hitting in my life. And I've learned to be patient with that. But yeah, how tough are you as a therapist, and how are you able to guide maybe without pushing?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Yes, therapy and coaching is very different, but at the same time, it's very similar in a lot of ways. And in that way, it's very similar. Like I can only provide the tools.
Yeah.
Like I can only provide, what I can provide, but it's very common for people to come back years later, sometimes just a couple of sessions later, and be like, okay, I changed my mind. Like I hear you, And I actually do think like it's interesting when people put up a level of resistance, because I think that's just interesting to me. Like a lot of it's like past trauma usually, but there is this hesitation to grow. And I do think it's because getting uncomfortable is really hard, and to look to the future is hard because it's so uncertain. People hate uncertainty, myself included.
Yes.
One thing we know about the past is the past is the past. And I can tell you exactly what happened.
Yeah.
That's, it's familiar. So I get it. It's like a human being, and as a therapist, I get it. So it's just kind of about providing the space though, to let kind of people find you.
Yes.
Where.
Yeah, and I want to thank my therapists who have been really patient with me, and I've gone back and sent them emails. I will say I've typically had more success with more coaches for a couple reasons. One, I'm just like a classic overthinker. I live so much up in my brain, and I'm self-aware enough that I will I manipulate other people really well, but I manipulate myself the best. And I was just going in circles. And so when I got into coaching programs, specifically group coaching, where I was doing habits that I didn't have to think about, I just had to do the thing, and I didn't think about why. That's how I experienced some more shifts. But I don't think that would have been possible without me building the groundwork in therapy.
Yeah, which is usually how it goes.
Yeah.
I think therapy is more of like the internal processing, the figuring out the past, navigating it, processing all of that. And then, yeah, I definitely think that there's like this discourse online and in the world about therapy and coaches and how like we don't agree or don't get along, and their professions are but I'm like, our professions just like partner each other. I actually think very well.
I do too. Yes.
Yeah, like I know, no shade to the coaches out there. I actually think you guys totally play a role. And I think you're right. I think the therapy foundation for most people would be like is a good place to just make sure that you're like have that internal communication with yourself, because not everybody does. You're a chronic overthinker, as am I. So I think that therapy can be helpful to like maybe reframe the internal thinking, so you're not just thinking about the same stuff over and over. But then after that, yeah, like tools and habit forming is so coaching world, and I love that for you guys.
Yes. And I think both professions, if we can call them that, I don't know if we can call coaching a profession, but I mean that you are in a profession.
Yeah. But I definitely am.
yeah, you definitely, exactly. Yes, I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Like you are, and I've literally made this up, right? I've done lots of work and certifications and everything too.
No, you totally are.
But like anything else, the top of any profession, there tends to be very effective people. And I think the bottom 25 to 50%, I think there tends to be quite a lot of ineffective people. And I'd say that's even higher in coaching. It's probably 60 to 70% are not effective. And I'd say maybe in my first year or two, I definitely will take ownership of that and over promising, under delivering a lot of that. And that sucks, but it's a little bit a part of it. But yeah, I don't know. So anyone that's listening to this too, and if you have a bias against coaches, you are absolutely right. You don't need to change that, because I think that's true.
But I did want to ask you, because I think it's like in these careers, and I mean, as a therapist for sure, I've learned a lot about myself. Do you feel like as a coach through your coaching profession career, what have you learned about yourself? Do you see yourself
Yeah,
differently?
for sure. And what's coming in for me now is one of my favorite. I think it's Schopenhauer through Nietzsche talks about, how any philosopher is merely their philosophy is just a collection of their own biases, right? Of their own experience. And so, like, of course, I would become a party coach, because I have these experiences, right? And I think a lot of therapists and people like, if you were traumatized, you're going to see everything through a trauma lens. If I see connection through partying, I'm going to see it through that. I've become much more humble over the years of realizing I'm just not going to resonate with a lot of people. I'm actively wrong, even if I'm not conscious about it a lot. And but the alternative is to say nothing at all. So I try to come out there. But I'd say if what I've learned through this is just how much a part of an ecosystem I am. I am not a savior. I'm not the right way. The universe produced me at this time to either be a great example or a terrible warning. And people get to experience the world through my experience of what that is. And I've had to just be I share very vulnerably and openly online. I dance silly and that's not going to work for everyone. But it's how I believe that I'm meant to show up.
Do you, this is just like a question, do you self-disclose like about your, I don't know, like yourself in your sessions?
Hmm. So I don't do much like hour-long sessions anymore.
Okay.
I
Yeah, what does
yeah.
it look like?
So it's a lot of so this 7-stage cycle there's 49 questions. This technically can be done in 7 weeks. I really try to get people 7 weeks, 49 questions. There's an order to these questions. The first week is kind of detox from dopamine, and then we move into all these things. But it's writing. So they're doing writing journaling every day. I'm giving them feedback and motivation on their habits. And there's these habits that we're building. And then we're building into eventually they're learning how to curate their own tribe and host their own party or a ceremony. So this might be a walking club, it might be a moon circle, it might be a house party, but I'm kind of encouraging them to do these things. And their questions for me are like, well, what if nobody wants to come to my party or what are these things? And instead of saying, um, giving them the answers, I'm just asking more questions. I was like, so what if nobody wants to come to your party? you know? And so I've gotten much better at just asking questions, providing a structure for them to exist inside of. And I do a lot of like voice notes and be like, I love you, or here's me dancing to Dog Days Are Over. And I'll like send them a video of me doing that. And if they see me being silly and goofy, they are able to like step into the world and do things.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot more, I don't want to be too general, but it definitely sounds like a lot more personable and more motivational vibes.
Yeah,
Which I'm
that's what
sure
I
people
use.
love
I use
that.
cheerleader a lot.
Yeah.
What is it? Enneagram 7? Is that it? The cheerleader, I think, enthusiast. I don't know. But I identify a lot as I'm just enthusiastic.
Have you always been this way?
Yeah.
Just like, I'm not going to ask you about childhood, but like as a kid, what were you like?
Yeah. Yeah, I was a cellist growing up. Uh I got into acting. I played soccer. I was president of everything. I was the top of my class. I was the golden child. I had a lot of those things, but some of that was out of, and I had a great childhood. That's the other thing I talk about too. I don't really, and why I think therapy was frustrating was we were poking around for trauma, and I was like, I don't think I have it. I
Got
honestly
it.
just think I'm just I wanted to be interesting. I have this lust for life. I don't know, and I poked around everything. Um, some of the, like I am gay, and I think there's a lot of, when I did read Velvet Rage, this 3-stage process that a lot of men go through of um, having to hide parts of yourself, finding solace in the party scene and drugs. If you don't sublimate that part of yourself, you turn into this Peter Pan syndrome, chasing, the romance and the challenge you never lost. I'd say if I identify with anything, I think it's that. But I've just had this like love for what it means to be human. And that love is sometimes so strong that it leads me to 3-day benders, And that's was so frustrating about a lot of this, and how to channel that into something that actually helps other people instead of turning all that back on myself.
Totally. Like, I think when I was looking at your website earlier, I think I like how you talk about like things being sustainable, and like just sustainability just in general. I think in our lives, we have to learn to be sustainable and to be mindful that things come in waves and chapters, and we have to find ways to just sustain it all versus trying to like change so much. So I just hear that as you talk about that. Like it sounds like you've learned ways to just be sustainable through everything you go through.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. And sometimes, yeah, I can get, I'm wearing my Aura ring right now. Do you do any like sleep trackers or anything?
No, I could care
No.
less.
Yeah.
I
I
have
well,
worries.
I've learned, well, again, as I'm diagnosed many times ADHD, but I don't even love to identify as that too much too. But I I do best when I have a stage, right? So I think about we're talking about double use of stages here, right? My life has stages, but I need stages to perform on. So if I want to be healthy, I need to measure my sleep. I have this whole crazy AI setup where all of my Apple data and everything all goes into this thing where I have dashboards and I'm able to look, I put my blood work and everything in there, and I'm constantly testing. And it's like when I have that stage that I can measure these things, I'm much more likely to show up in a way that's cool. When I don't have a stage, I will disappear into the warehouse, and I'll end up in the in the porta potties or whatever, and so that for me has been another thing that I've learned about myself, which is allow myself to have stages to perform on, while also I have a spiritual side of my life that is very private, and I don't need a stage for that side of myself.
Stages. That's such an interesting way to look at that.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you just like you create a stage for yourself, whether it be like your health or like, whatever. It just sounds like you can be the main character in those, in those ways. That's cool.
Well, and what I loved about why I fell in love with partying
Tell
was
me.
because I went from somebody who I loved the stage as a actor and performer and a cellist, but at the party, it was like we were all on stage, like and back when I was starting the DJ, nobody looked at the DJ, nobody cared. Now everyone cares more, but we would all face each other and dance. And it was like we were all on stage together. And that was what was cool to me. And so for anyone who's listening to this now, it's like, oh, like what's the point of going to a party? A great party will feel like you're on stage together with the people there.
Yes, which I love, because I think people often worry about like, what are people going to think about me? And I often try to, remind of like, nobody's even looking at you. They're thinking about themselves, but I love that. So you're kind of reframing around just like a good feeling party, which is very true, is like when everyone feels connected and everyone's main character, like everyone's enjoying the time and the experience together, because that's really what it's all about. And I think a lot of social anxiety comes from thinking otherwise,
Yes. And this is I get a lot of social anxiety people to come to me. And
I bet you do.
the first thing that I have them do is you're going to go to a party alone. You're going to find somebody else that looks like they're anxious, and you're going to help them feel like they belong. After you've done that, you can leave. You don't have to stay any more than that. But it's not about you. You are a part of humanity. And if you when we become portals for the things that we want, the universe provides more of that to us. If you want to feel more confident, go help somebody else feel more confident. And of course, this comes from, you learn about this in 12 step and other things too, but like giving these things away provides it for ourselves. The same is true of confidence, of social anxiety. And I really, maybe it works for some people, but all these like confidence coaches that affirmations and things, maybe I don't know. I haven't experienced a lot of success with that. It's getting out of your head and your ego. Stop puffing yourself up and go help someone else, and their reflection back to you, not 9 times, I'd say like 7 times out of 10. I send people on these missions and they're like, this group adopted me and now we're going out next weekend and I'm part of this friend group. I was like, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But people get so they think they need to be something before they give it away, and give it away first because you already have it.
Like how you like motivate people to step out there and really just try.
Another thing that I talk about too is the rule of thirds, which is a third of the time you go out, it's going to be great. A third of the time it's going to be mediocre, and a third of the time it's going to be bad. And this exact ratio is true for everyone all the time, because as humans, we have to categorize things. If everything is good, there is no bad. And so in all of the parties that I've been to, a third of them were better than other ones by whatever standards I use. And so when I tell people that, it takes some pressure off. And maybe the first time you go out, it actually does suck. That means you're doing it right.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's get back to a little bit around party coaching, and then I think we're good. So I want to know a little bit around, you use the term that I really like, conscious partying, because I do think a lot of our partying sometimes at times, especially with substance use, becomes a pattern behavior. It becomes a bit of like an unconscious behavior because it's just very just like, this is what we do every weekend. I mean, I talk to people all the time where they're like, everything just meshes together. They're like, I don't know what I've been up to, things like that. Like, I'm just kind of doing more of the same. So how do you help people become more conscious with what they're doing, more intentional with their partying?
Yeah. So I'm big on like not even though I just talked about like quantifying things, I'm big on not trying to like quantify a night out, right? But I'm really big on feelings. So one of the exercises that I'll have people do before they go out is they'll text me. I say, how are you feeling now? How would you like to feel during the party? And how would you like to feel when you leave? And just creating these little intentions of feelings, right? And one of the things that these intentions do is they kind of set these little anchors. Like if you want to feel connected, that first time that somebody talks to you, boom, it's like, oh, I manifested them, right? Or like I planned it. This everything is going according to plan, right? And it just creates this kind of like feelings roadmap path for you to go, right? And what I've noticed as people start to do this, it's not something that you have to keep up for very long, but it kind of becomes something to go there. But for someone who is going in, we are living in a time of excess choice. We have too many choices. And that's actually what's leading to a lot of the anxiety. And actually, by limiting your experience, by saying, I just want to, and that I try to get people to be more and more successful. Like, what do you want to feel tonight? I want to, like compliment somebody's energy. And if that is your intention for tonight, once you do that thing, and again, it builds this self-trust that I can be conscious, I can be in this space. I'm not overwhelmed by choices. I have this choice to do this thing. So how are you feeling now? You can practice this. Text this to your friend, text this to your therapist. I don't know if you text to your therapist too much, but probably not.
Depends.
Post it on your close friend story, right? How you feeling? How would you like to feel, and how would you like to feel when you leave? And just see how that feels.
What are the normal feelings? Like if someone was just like, where do I even begin?
Yeah, some people want freedom, right? They're like, I just want to like they're feeling trapped. Like I want to feel free, right? I just want to be on the dance floor and feel free again. Some people are like, I want to feel connect. I want to feel love. I want to feel love for myself. Some people want to um, feel the spark, right? But one of my favorite quotes that I give to people: our natural state is ecstatic wonder. We should not settle for anything less. And if
Love
you can
that.
walk into a party with wonder, like that's the freest drug there is. You know how crazy it is. That are we on this planet? Well, I'm talking to you over a bunch of zeros and ones are like, and I can see your face and I can feel your energy, and this is going to go off into the world. And all around us right now, there are people that are starting like sauna parties and cold plunge parties, and there are sober parties in every city in the world right now. And your church is doing something, and there's so much out there. Like I don't know how people aren't in constant wonder.
Wonder is a great one. Because when you said feelings, I was already like, what if people don't even know what they want to feel? You know?
Yeah.
But I love that question. I love to, I mean, as a therapist, I definitely love to ask the question around just like, how did you feel after it's all over when they're making decisions around just like who they want to see, who they want to be around? I always try to say, like, do check-ins with yourself. Like, how do you feel prior to? And then how do you feel after? I don't really do the middle one, but I think that's a good one too, because it is important that we track it, because I do think a big piece of this is we do things out of expectation or because someone told us to show up somewhere. We just do it for that reason. And we don't really focus enough around how we feel about the whole thing. So I like that you're leading with that, like you're leading with self. And I think that's beautiful, because I do think people, yeah, again, they kind of just lead with expectation or because it's on the calendar. But that doesn't really lead to very, very like, much happiness. And then I think wonder is a great one if you don't know how you want to feel, but if you could lead with wonder. Yeah. I mean, we can wonder about what it's going to be like going to the grocery store later. Like, we don't know. I don't know.
Yes.
I can
Yes.
assume it, but I really don't know. So I think leading with wonder is also really cool. Thanks, Evan.
Thank you so much.
This was
This has
great.
been fun. I will close with one little thing of just the fun. We talked a little bit about it, but if you're listening to this and you're like, I just don't know how to have fun anymore. I'm not there. I will say, so I've been studying this, and science doesn't really know how to define fun. They really
Yeah.
struggle with it too. Because it's one of the most variant from person to person. Like something that I find fun, you might not. As we change and grow, sometimes people try to do like what was fun for you as a child. I think that's important too. But I will say, I was feeling a little stagnant this year, and so I started taking tennis lessons. I'll be 40 this year, taking a new hobby on, whatever. And I'm not very good, but I'm pretty self-conscious about that. And I'm in this tennis group with about 7 other middle-aged women and me, like beginners tennis.
I love it.
And it was so embarrassing. Like I'm just like whiffing balls. But once I got past that first couple weeks, I'm having so much fun. And I've been posting about it online and posting my journey, and like my tennis friends are all like coaching me and setting things, and it's connecting me with all these people that I never thought I would. Like tennis is kind of an individualistic sport, but it's provided more like social connections to me than anything I've done recently. So I just want to speak that level of fun of like starting something new, learning something new, being in a new hobby. I'm sure it sounds basic, but just from a party coach, I'm experiencing how fun it is to have a new hobby like that.
Totally. You're breaking your routine and breaking your patterns, and you're getting connected to, yeah, not only the sport, but people as well. I love that. How awesome. Okay, well, final thing, plug your social media and tell us what you're excited about.
Of course. Thanks so much. You can find us at partycoach.me. And if you go to TikTok or Instagram and search Party Coach, I'm up there. We're always running these, it's called Wellness Bender. So that's these 21-day habit challenges. Your habits increase, I think it's 68% if you do it with a group, and up to 96% if you have scheduled times that you're showing up with other people for habits. So that's what we do, is we create these groups of people that are showing up for each other in these habit groups. And it's just a great place to start to get reconnected to what party and fun means to you. And what am I excited about? I'm in Chicago right now. I moved back here, and there are so many people starting like rooftop parties and wellness parties. There's this new thing. There's like a 7 a.m. on Fridays. They jump in the lake. And I'm excited because it feels like we're finally kicking COVID pandemic off. And everyone is like, 2026, we're having fun again. So that's what I'm excited about.
And thank you for what you do is very important. Sorry for making the coaching joke earlier. You're absolutely a professional.
No, I made the joke. I take full responsibility. Yes. I'm not a professional. I sometimes can't even post on LinkedIn because I was like, I do not belong here.
What you're doing is really important and post-COVID to get back to reconnecting with others and just be able to enjoy and have fun again and find the wonder in the day-to-day. Like, I see the ways in which that what you do is super important. So thank you for doing what you do. You're changing people's lives for sure.
And thank you to all of the just people who've helped me, because I've needed a lot of help over my life. And I still do. I need help today. And I'm much better at asking for that help because of this work that I do too. Thank you.
Thanks,
Party on.
Bye.